Hi, my name is Anna Jackson, and I'm a curious mind who wants to meet interesting people. That's why this show is called Whattaya Say with Anna J. So, should we go and meet somebody interesting? My very first show and my very first guest is, not only is she a Canadian conductor, a chorus master, she's also the artistic director for Opera Kelowna. She is the music director for the Conductor Symphony Orchestra. She has been the chorus master and assistant conductor at the Calgary Philharmonic and assistant conductor for the Canadian Opera Company. There's a lot more to learn, but let's meet her first. Rosemary Thompson, welcome.
Hi, Anna.
Thank you so much for being my first.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting, and any moment I get to spend with you makes for a very happy day.
Well, you still my heart, so thank you very much. So let's just start, because the reason why I'm doing this show is because I'm just a really curious person, and I just think that everybody is more interesting than I am, and you're definitely more interesting than I am. So, being a maestra, how did you come into it? I mean, you're a female in a very male-dominated profession.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about
and
that.
even more male-dominated when I got started.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
30 years ago.
Oh
I can hardly believe.
So what was the spark that made you kind of like cross over that bridge and say, I'm building this bridge stronger with women?
It was the very first time that I conducted was for a beautiful youth choir called the Hyde Park Girls Choir in Toronto. I was a student at the University of Toronto, and I was playing my cello in the Heart House Orchestra, which is sort of a community orchestra at the university for staff and faculty and alumni and students. And I met the conductor's wife, who was also a conductor, and together, Errol and Anne Cooper Gay, had this wonderful chorus. And we were at a social event, and she was singing, because she was an opera singer, and it was a piece that I knew, Laudamus Te by Mozart. I'd sung it as a kid in my choirs. And so I joined in with her. And she stopped, and she said, she's from Texas, and she said, "You sing!" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'm not a singer, but I've grown up singing. My parents met singing in a choir. I had 6 siblings, and we had no radio in our station wagon, so we sang everywhere we went." And in about 5 minutes, and then she found out that I also played piano. She said, "I thought you were a cello major." I said, No, I'm a piano major." So she said, "You have to come and work with us with this choir." And so I went, and she rearranged my schedule. She was a force of nature, still is.
Wow.
And I remember the feeling. I can absolutely remember the feeling the first time I got in front of these wonderful teenage girls, and that all their sound came back to me as I was leading them in this piece. Wow. And every hair on my arm stood up.
Yeah.
And it was sort of, I had been conducted my whole life. I started singing in choirs when I was really young and playing in orchestras, in youth orchestra. But this was such a different feeling to be on the other side.
Right.
And so then I just started to pursue every opportunity that I could find, and made many of them myself.
Right. And what's the next step after that? Like, is there a conducting school? Is there a...
So the way more now. 30 years ago in Canada, there really weren't very many, but at the University of Toronto, where I was graduating with my undergraduate degree in piano, most of my colleagues were going on to do master's degrees in piano, and I thought, I just don't love practicing that much by myself in a room. And I don't love performing by myself, which was probably a bigger thing. I'm probably the most extroverted person that I know. So being with other people is really important to me, especially when I'm making music. And I can totally remember, I'm a night owl, so I was always practicing late at the music school. I remember being on the phone, a payphone, with a dear friend of mine, and sort of sitting in the basement at the Edward Johnson building, and then looking at this bulletin board, and there's an advertisement for this conducting program that they were running. And I knew that they had the program, but I just hadn't really thought about it for myself.
You didn't see it until you saw it.
Exactly. And so I said to this friend of mine, "I wonder if they would take a woman in the conducting program." And she said, "Oh, thank God, that's exactly what you should be doing." And so I auditioned, and I got in, and everything kind of fell from there.
Fell into place right
But when
there.
I tell my kids now that story, they say, "Why would you say that?"
Well, it's a completely different world now. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful because it seems like you have a really well-rounded life. You have children, a husband, you've traveled, you're conducting, and you're here in the Okanagan. Was it hard to get the recognition that you deserve? I mean, we were just talking about that with your kids. Do you still feel that there's so much more that you can give, or are you paving ways for?
I think there have certainly been times in my career, and I never wanted to get hired because I was a woman. Like, there's a bit of a flip now, right? People are really recognizing that we have these gender gaps, and it's becoming much more important to close that gap. But I always wanted to just be seen as a musician and a good conductor with skills. And it takes a long time to build those skills. So I think there were times early in my career that, you know, I'm not sure I was that effective, but over the time and over the years, and having had my own, you know, my own opportunities with the orchestra here for 16 years, this is my 16th season, I can hardly believe it. You know, you just hone your technique, like anything, any craft. You have to practice it.
Of course.
And it's harder to practice conducting in your living room because you sort of, you think you know what you're doing, but until someone's actually responding, you don't really know if it works or not. So it's not like you can get your own sound.
A little bit later in the show, I'm going to actually get you to stand up and conduct the cameras and do a little bit of something.
Everyone a lesson.
Because I want to, yeah, exactly.
Teach you to conduct.
I just found out that the proms in England are opening and closing with 2 female conductors, and that is an absolute first. That's just something, while I was doing my research.
Well, and let me tell you about this other program quickly called the Women in Musical Leadership Program.
Yes.
That is run out of Toronto from Tapestry Music Theatre, who I've conducted with before, and they have partners with the Toronto Symphony and Pacific Opera Victoria. But now they have organizations, orchestras, and opera companies from across the country, including Opera Kelowna and the Okanagan Symphony. Brilliant. And so they have 2 candidates, 2 fellows. They got funding from the Israeli Foundation, and these fellows get 3 years of basically career management. And so they're conducting, sometimes they're assisting, sometimes they're doing their own show. They have a 3-year placement, so they get a little bit more responsibility as the year goes by.
Well,
but it's an amazing program. Worldwide, it's about 6% of the big podiums in the world are run by women. Okay. And I'm looking forward to when we don't need this program anymore because we're at 50.
Because we're at 50. Yeah. Well, you know what's really nice is right now they've got 2 movies out and a documentary. You know, Tar. There's also one called The Conductor, which I can't stop talking about. Christiane de Brogen or something.
You told me about it and I downloaded it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you have to watch it. And then also Mareem Alsop, there's a documentary about her, and she's the one that's actually closing the British proms for 2023.
Maren really blazed a trail. She was really, and she also studied with Bernstein. I mean, many people think that Tar is somewhat based on her career, not the actual story, but sort of her career. She wasn't a fan of the movie. So I wanted to ask you, so you've got all this experience. What has experience taught you that you didn't actually learn at school, that you can actually go, oh, like, what's your little flair? You know, everybody has a flair. What can people watch when they come and see you at the symphony? What is your thing? That's a great question. I think conducting it's like you can't learn to swim in the library. You have to get in the pool. And with conducting, it's the same. And so it's very important that you study the scores. You have to know the music in your head. You have to do all this analysis and understand where the melody's going and the big formal structure and all of that. It's sort of the academic part.
How many hours does it take for you to actually look at a score and understand what the strings are doing, what the bassoons are doing, what the da-da-da-da-da?
It depends on the size of the score, for sure. It depends on the complexity. But I know for sure 30 years in that I can digest a score a lot faster than when I was just getting started. But to answer your first question, I think I can remember the feeling when I first was. It was the first year that I conducted, especially in front of orchestras, because there's something just a little more daunting with all those instruments. the first year, including my audition for that program at the University of Toronto, when I got on the podium, both my legs shook so hard. I thought I was going to fall over. And that kind of happened anytime I got into a new situation. Mm-hmm. But over the first year or so, that stopped happening. But I remember the first time that I thought, the basses are too heavy and they're longer than I want them to be. And this was in a performance. Okay. And so I changed my gesture. And they responded, and it was so cool. Oh my
I thought, God!
Wow, I really am doing this with my gesture, you know. But I don't know, for flair, I really like to show shapes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of conductors who will, and I'll show you this when we're doing it. Okay. But you know, generally we put the baton in our right hand. Some conductors conduct in their left hand, and often conductors will mirror with both hands. Right. And I try really hard not to do that because I want to show both the beat, but then the line.
Yeah, I see how you do
so
that.
I think, I like to think that I kind of paint the line in the air to help the musicians, who are all brilliant on their own, you know, but just to help guide and bring it all into one unit so that we're all working together.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I'm so glad I asked that question. So since taking the post in Kelowna, you've brought some really interesting ideas onto the symphony stage. You did a proms once, you did a Brit thing, you've just done a rock odyssey.
That's fun.
You're bringing a little bit of fun and culture to something that's usually a little bit stuffy and dusty. Now, do you have more visions for the symphony in that?
Well, I think ever since I've been involved in, you know, my parents met singing in a choir, as I said, and they sang in the symphony chorus when I grew up. So I've been attending symphony concerts for a long time. I won't tell you how long. But I think that I love that you said stuffy and dusty, you know, and there was this tradition of being very highbrow, but not hundreds of years ago. It was very popular to kind of come and we weren't so bothered about be very quiet and don't clap in the wrong place, and I don't care about any of that.
See, that's what I like about you, because I was always so intimidated by going to a symphony, not knowing what was beautiful, and if I'm so.
And I want, what to me is so glorious about a symphony orchestra, especially live, is this combination of all these different colors of sound. And something of the brightness of the oboe and the warmth of the clarinet and the beauty and the depth of the string sound. And they're all acoustic instruments. Yes. And so much, you know, in the last 50 years, and especially today, it's mostly electronic is how we experience music, through microphones and amplifiers. And so to experience this acoustic instrument, which it really is, when you put them all together, it's like one instrument. It's quite special. And when I meet people who have heard an orchestra for the first time, it's like being with a kid at Christmas. You know, you're just reminded of the glory of it, and for me to, I don't think I would ever take it for granted.
It makes me cry.
So I try, just in the way I introduce the music that I program, to try and really reach out to lots of different members of the community, to try and create something that is still really special, but that people can find a way in without feeling intimidated.
I'm going to have to invite you again, because I have so many questions, but before we go on to this next segment, what's your favorite music? We talked about this, and I love... I don't know the names of anything, but there was one that was just glorious.
I think it's such a hard question. It's like asking who's your favorite child, right? Yeah. To some degree, it's whatever I'm working on at the time. Yeah. I love new contemporary composers. The music of today is really wonderful. I have an affinity for Beethoven, because Beethoven had all these notebooks, and he wrote and he rewrote and rewrote and rewrote. He doubted his own ability so much, whereas Mozart wrote everything once, and it was glorious. Yeah. And you could hear that struggle in Beethoven's music. And I think because he takes us through so much struggle, and often in really fantastic, rhythmic, driving ways, that when you get to the glory, it's that much more rewarding.
Oh my goodness.
And so I love that. But then I love the French early. I always said I was born in the wrong era. I should have been born in Paris in the early 1900s. And so Ravel and Debussy, the French kind of, people think of them as impressionist composers. They were writing colors and their harmonic choices. They were actually really inspired by the gamelan that was at the World Fair in Paris. Okay. All the composers went, wow, this is like nothing we've ever heard before. Yeah. So they were really, they were quite courageous. They were pioneers, you know, in the way.
I love how you speak. What's your favorite song?
My favorite song? Well, I have a couple of them. There's a song, a set of 4 songs by Richard Strauss that he wrote for soprano and orchestra.
I'll make sure that we have them down so people can write them down.
Great. And the third one, it's called Beim Schlafen gehen, and when it means as I'm going to sleep. Schlafen to sleep, gehen to go. German, and it mixes the soprano with a solo violin, and it really. It's not just about going to sleep, it's also a metaphor for the end of life. And so it's going from the beauty of the day and being swept up into the stars. And it is,
well,
it's
you're
just
definitely
transfixing. It's so glorious. Yeah.
You're definitely not putting me to sleep, but I have to go on to the next segment because
great.
I cannot wait. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
So Rosemary's with me now, and we've got music in front of us. She brought out this thing that looks like a knitting needle, but it's absolutely not. What is this?
This is what we call our baton.
Okay.
Or a magic wand.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding. It really is called magic. It really is called a baton. So conducting is a technique. It is a craft. It's not nearly as tricky as learning to play an instrument or learning how to be an opera singer. But it still is a craft.
You have all these instruments in front of you.
Yes.
And you have to tell everybody how you want this music to be played, even though they're reading it. So, but tell me a little bit about what how
that correlates to that. Well, first of all, you need to learn kind of how to hold the stick. So this is what when I'm working as a teacher with young conductors.
Am I allowed to hold it?
Shake my hand.
Okay.
Okay, and then I'm just going to replace that and just shake the baton. There you go. There's your grasp. So it shouldn't be fancy. You want the baton to be an extension of your arm.
Okay.
And then
how come I've got goose
you see, look. You're natural.
Am I?
You are, because you know how to move to music. So you're painting, exactly. There you are.
I just have to get your hair.
A new conductor is born. So the stick, and then another thing that we think about all the time is how much mobility. So you can conduct from your shoulder.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? And so that I kind of save for when I've got 250 chorus members and 100 orchestra people, and you have to really fill up the big space.
Right.
You can conduct from your elbow.
Okay.
And that just gets a little smaller. And you can conduct from your wrist. And that's when you're getting really fast. We had a concerto artist here who got so fast at the end. I was going so fast with the stick, and I was just down to my knuckles, and I thought, I have no smaller joint. So if he gets any faster, we won't be able to keep up.
Oh my goodness.
But then you can do all this stuff with your fingers. And so sometimes you can do like a big beat, but you can do the small beat with your fingers. So it gives you a bunch of options of how to show what you want from the music.
Oh my goodness. So you know where everybody is, right? And it's standard. Nobody mixes it up.
Absolutely standard. Sometimes if you're in an unfamiliar space and they have to rejig it a little.
Okay.
I always have learned now, every time you get up to do a concert in a new space, make sure you just look around and see where everybody is. Because I just think, like, the horns were over there last night. Oh no, they're over there. And you do the big cue.
Have they ever tricked you?
Well, not deliberately, okay. I don't think. Maybe.
So, like I said, if all these cameras are your musicians, what would be over here?
So this would be, well, you have the strings that go all the way around in a semicircle right in front of us.
Okay.
And so that would be the violas.
All right.
And then usually up on a riser, here, you put that back on your hand because you're natural. Up on a riser would be the woodwinds, who tend to be the soloists. So the flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons.
Okay.
And then either behind them or on the side, depends on the configuration of the stage. Look at, she's like a natural. It would be your brass. So trumpets, horns, trombones, and tuba. And then usually on this side, but depends on the orchestra, you have your percussion section. So the 4 families in the orchestra, right? There's the strings, the winds, the brass, and the percussion. And then within that, you have the separate instruments. So when I'm looking at the score, the winds start at the top. There's no brass in this piece.
Right.
So then I go to the strings, and then I have the singers, because this is an opera score.
God.
So the singers appear in different places.
And by the way,
This is my brand new, it just arrived yesterday.
This is the whole. It's
fact-
not just a page. We only have time for a little page, but
This is actually Act 1. And this is the opera we're doing this summer with Opera Kelowna, Così fan tutti by Mozart. And it's such a glorious piece. And this is a beautiful trio from that I don't think I can sing all 3 parts, but certainly people can listen and find it and listen to it.
Will you paint
Sure.
what you're going to be doing? And I'm going to leave the stage and watch you on the monitor.
Okay.
Because we only get to see your bum when we're watching. Now we get to actually see your face and how you bring it in, but you'll also be a little bit more vocal so that you
Yeah, I can sort of sing along a little bit.
Okay.
So you know what I'm doing. So just to paint the picture, the scene.
Okay.
There's 3 characters here: Fiordligi and Dorabella, sisters.
Okay.
Don Alfonso, who's kind of a butler character. I think of him as the guy that heads up Downton Abbey. I can't remember his name. You know,
yes.
the guy that runs the house.
Yeah.
So he's sort of that. But he and the maid Despina have had one on these 2 pairs of fiancés, and they say, "Oh, I don't think you can be faithful to each other." And so they have this whole trick that the boys they go off to war, they're in the army, and then they come back in disguise and try and woo the opposite fiancé. And chaos ensues, but it's very hilarious. It's a ridiculous plot, but it's glorious music. And so in
Yes.
this trio, the girls think that their fiancés are heading off they're sailing away.
Right.
And so they're asking for the breezes to be gentle. Suave sia il vento, vento wind. So the
Vento.
breezes be gentle to take care of their loved ones. So what Mozart does, I did say it's by Mozart, is he
Yes.
creates these little breezes in the violins. And
I
so they're going,
see that.
and that goes all the way through the trio.
Okay.
And over that, the singer's suave silento, tranquilla sia l'onda. So there's this beautiful sort of gentle undulation underneath. And then this long one I talked about, the separation of the 2 hands,
Right.
this beautiful arc of melody that goes over top. And that's Mozart's genius.
Okay, I'm going to watch from there, and
Okay.
I want to see what this is.
So with my stick,
oh, I'm so excited.
I need to get the cellos and basses are doing what we call a pizzicato. They're plucking the string, and that
Okay.
can be hard to get together. So I have to be very boom. Like I would really show them boom, right when the stick gets there
Okay.
is when they're going to put their pizzicato. But you don't want to do that with the violins, because
talk
then
to
it'll
them
be
now.
it'll be sort of bum 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 bum. So with this hand,
Okay.
I'm conducting the pizzicato, and with this hand, I'm trying to show the undulations. And then once the singers come in, then I want to help support their breath and show this long line. So here we go. I'm going to sing along.
Go, girl.
Boom. Boom. Now come the singers. Suave silvento, yagataka, tranquilla stia l'onda. Now the winds come in. So you see that shape? I'm always listening to the da 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 da. I nostri desi. And that's kind of how it works.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm trying to do different things with both hands.
Yeah.
Your eyes really help. You can really lift an eyebrow to cue. Sometimes with singers, I mouth along the words, thinking about breath support for them. So anything that I'm feeling and showing should hopefully translate for the performers to help them be at their best.
Rosemary, thank
It's
you
so
for
fun.
showing us how to do this.
I really love my job.
I
feel
really
very, very
love you.
blessed.
See, and this is why I get to talk to interesting people like you,
Wonderful.
because that makes me so happy.
Well,
All right.
Thank you for having me on.
I've
It's
got
been a
the
real
questionnaire next.
joy.
I'm a big fan of talk shows, and I used to watch the I still do watch the Colbert Report. And there's this thing called the Colbert Questionnaire. So I'm kind of reusing that, and it's called the Whattaya Say with Anna J. And now my guest Rosemary Thompson said that she is willing to dig deep and find the answers and tell us all. We're going to tell the same story each time, but you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Sandwich. Best sandwich.
I make a sandwich with brie cheese, cranberry sauce, and arugula. When I turned vegetarian, I missed turkey sandwiches.
Okay.
I do my own version with brie cheese.
I love that. Somebody else said something about cranberry and brie. What's one thing you own that you should really throw out?
Only one? I have this cashmere hoodie with the kangaroo pockets.
Oh my goodness!
That was gifted to me. It was my dear friend in England who's a singer, and I was doing a program with him in England, and I hadn't brought enough warm clothes because it was very hot here, and I went over to England, and it was quite cool. We were actually heading up to Scotland, so he gave me this, and I lived in it for the 3 weeks there, and then he said, "You keep it." And that was 20 years ago, and it was great for camping trips, but now it has many holes in it.
Yeah.
And so I still use it for camping, but really I should probably throw it out. But I can't bear to throw it out. It's so cozy.
I'm a sucker for nostalgia. What is the scariest animal?
Rat.
Oh, okay. Apples or oranges? Oh, I know.
I think oranges in the winter and apples in the summer.
Oh, okay.
So I like the citrus, the sunshine citrus in the winter months, but I like the crispness of the apple in the summer.
A little scale.
Is that a cop-out? That's a cop-out.
No, it's not. It's your answer.
Okay.
Have you ever asked someone for their autograph?
I have.
Do you want to elaborate or just say I have?
I was at Disneyland with my kids, and I got Darth Vader's autograph.
I love it. What do you think happens when we die?
I think that there is some kind of energy transfer. I think there's some kind of divine love that we all get to be part of together again.
Good answer. Favorite action movie?
Fifth Element.
Oh.
There's a great opera diva scene in that, and Bruce Willis is spectacular.
Oh my goodness. I know, it's such
Plus the costumes. Gautier designed the costumes, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
I really love that.
I got to revisit that one.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
It's been a while since I saw it. Yeah. You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What is it?
Well, the Beim Schlafengehen that I was talking about before is that song that really lifts your spirit, and it's quite meditative. But I might have to say Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen.
Right on, Rose.
That was my party song in high school.
Okay. Favorite smell?
Lavender.
Oh. Least favorite smell?
I think pickles.
Really?
My husband's a big pickle lover.
I'm Polish.
Me not so much. Oh, you are Polish.
I love pickles, okay? Take that away. Okay. I'm putting the jar back and giving you something else. Flat or sparkling?
Sparkling.
Most used app on your phone?
I'm often lost, so probably Google Maps.
I love that. Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
I was looking at this pillow. Every day I love you. It could be good. Or
okay.
Maybe, how about don't sweat the small stuff?
That's even better. Works. What number am I thinking of?
14.
Ugh. Opposite. Go.
No, 41?
Yeah.
Really?
Literally 41.
That's hilarious.
That's weird. Okay. Do you think that Kelowna needs a new performing arts center?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
We do. Ours is 60 years old. I think we've grown as a community. It's time for something a little bigger, a little grander. Yeah.
I love that. Well, every answer is your answer, and you are correct.
Thank you.
That's Rosemary Thompson. Thank you so much, Rosemary, for hanging out on my show.
Thank you for having me, Anna.
Being
it's a
my
real
first
honor to
ever.
be your first guest.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show. I hope to see you again. And please stick around for Whattaya Say with Anna J.